this afternoon's startling announcement by Brazilian police. Not only are the police saying that 4 U.S. Olympic swimmers were not robbed at gunpoint Sunday morning in Rio de Janeiro, police say the swimmers vandalized a gas station. One of those swimmers, 6-time gold medalist Ryan Lochte, already facing backlash in Brazil and back at home as well. A short time ago, this went up. The New York Post releasing its picture of tomorrow's front page. It says, "The ugly American and liar, liar, Speedo on fire." With me here in the Situation Room is CNN legal analyst Laura Coates, a former federal prosecutor. And I want to bring back our senior international correspondent, Nick Payton-Walsh. He is in Rio de Janeiro. He's at the gas station where this incident with the American swimmers happened. Laura, I want to start with you. The issue here isn't so much the ripping a poster off. It's the fact that these swimmers appeared to have been dishonest with authorities. What repercussions could they face?
You know, if it had only been this vandalism, they probably wouldn't have that big of a problem on their hands. But you have the issue of lying to police officers. It's kind of like perjury that we do here in the United States. And so you've got this backlash that's coming up about how Rio is already upset about their reputation as being maybe unsafe. Now you have this very visible person saying that that actually is a true scenario, when in fact it's not, perhaps. And so they're going to face the issue of it's not really a big serious crime in Brazil, but it's a very big diplomacy nightmare.
Exactly. And the big concern was security. We heard that. There were the issues about the water. There was the issue of the Zika. And then what we learned going into the games was security was the big issue. And I think Rio was really trying to go out of their way. And now they feel, you know, that they've been a disservice has been done, to say the least, right?
I mean, you've got the impersonation of an officer being that easy. They're going to have a badge. They have a fake badge. They have a gun.
That's a scary idea.
That's a scary indictment of Brazilian security measures. And so you've got a whole host of issues. I think they're getting a lot of pushback because if it's not true, this was robbery, then they have just slandered an entire nation and their attempt to be a visible and competent security force for the Olympics.
It sure is. And Nick, you are there where this has been developing, really. A lot of folks, I think a lot of media descending on this gas station that you are now at. What is the latest that you've been hearing?
Well, we have just spoken to sources close to both Ryan Lochte, but also the 3 other swimmers who say they've actually spoken to all 4 men. And essentially, their take on this is that the security camera video basically corroborates Mr. Lochte's initial story, that they were the victims of an armed robbery by people who they thought were police. Now, they explain this in that if you look at the time code at the top of that particular video to one corner, there is, it appears, a gap of about 3 minutes. Now, these sources say that during that period of time, the man who you see leaning into the car, who the swimmers saw in what they thought was police uniform, who these sources say was carrying a badge, they say that they felt he was a policeman. He used a weapon to get them to get out of the car and then said by doing this symbol that they should hand over all their money, which, as Mr. Lochte, these sources say in his first report, offered was $400. Essentially, they're saying the police story has many holes in it, particularly the hole in the CCTV footage, in which they say is the moment when the robbery actually occurred. They're not clear if it was just the security guard who was behind the armed robbery, or another man, or even if the military police, when they arrived armed, were somehow involved in that too. That's all unclear. Essentially, they're saying these 4 men, who they admit had been drinking, felt they were being robbed by people who were armed police officers. That's their story. The alleyway behind me, which the media is crawling all over right now, well, they do accept that the 4 men came here to go to the toilet and they did pee behind that building. That's not in dispute. They may also have damaged that poster. That's unclear. But at the end of the day, these sources are saying quite clearly, put aside the fact that maybe people weren't behaving perfectly at that time of night on a Sunday morning, essentially they're still talking about armed robbery here and saying that the Brazilian police have not been honest and have left things out of their account.
Laura, that's a problem if there's a missing section of this closed-circuit television.
I mean, apparently it's not just the U.S. that has a problem with cameras failing when it comes to police activity. But, you know, this wouldn't be such a hard issue for people to accept or believe with Ryan Lochte's story. But for the fact there are some holes in the police story, but there's inconsistency between the swimmers
themselves. At first, he says the gun was cocked and pointed at his head.
At his forehead.
And that, which, I mean, that is a dramatic, scary thing.
It is.
It's not what happened. He basically said later.
It's a big fish, right? And it's saying to everyone that I had this dramatic armed robbery that was attempted on me. I was pulled over first, he said, by a cop in my taxi cab.
Yeah.
That didn't happen either. Then it was, we were at a gas station. They rushed us there. That didn't happen either. It is the series of inconsistencies that hurts Ryan Lochte and the other swimmers.
Laura Coates, Nick Payton-Walsh, thank you so much. And this breaking news continues next as new details emerge from Rio about this Olympic scandal.